This is the show that has hosted everyone from Sugar Ray Leonard to Keith One-Time Thurman. This is Tough Talk Tonight, brought to you by Heavy Bag Boxing.
As always, welcome to Tough Talk Tuesday. I'm your host, Lucas Biggers. Alongside me, we got Robert Alexander, James Del Campo, and Big Sakura will be joining us here as well. How's it going, guys?
I'm happy.
Why are you happy, Rob?
I got what I wanted this weekend.
And what was that?
2 superstars showing out for the sport.
So you think they both passed for the most part?
Oh, yeah, they both passed.
Okay. We're going to get to it a little bit more in depth as it goes on, but everybody didn't pass this weekend. What happened to Mateus, guys?
Liam Paro put up a great fight. He's a good counter puncher, a solid chin, supremely conditioned, and kept the pressure on throughout the fight. Mateus is good. He's a good puncher. He's smart. He's efficient. But in the end, he just got outpointed. And it was a good thing that at the end of the fight, he actually applauded that victory. So there's no real controversy there. But it was a really, really, really tough. It was a chess match of a fight. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it as much as I did.
Rob, go ahead.
Well, Paro had a great game plan. He took away the punches for the most part in the first half of the fight. Mateus was so much in the deficit that the second half of the fight, when he was actually able to come on strong and get in there, then Paro switched and held. I mean, it's dirty. I don't like it. He was warned several times. Should have been some multiple point deductions. There wasn't. But he did what he's supposed to do, and that's get a victory. And that's exactly what he did. And again, Mateus should have started off quicker. I don't know if he was just expecting to be able to come into the fight in the later rounds. I don't know if that was their game plan or not, but he had the wrong game plan. He should have started off quicker. He should have been warmed up. I don't even know if he was really warmed up in that until the later rounds. So, yeah, he's sharp, James. You're right. He's sharp. But Paro had a great game plan coming out the gate. And he took away all of the stuff that Mateus was trying to do and is known for. And then in the later rounds, when he was warmed up and ready to go, the holding. So it is what it is.
Well, you know what? I agree with you on that. But the holding, that was his saving grace. He was able to shut down Subriel Matias' game because he was able to do that. And yeah, he got warned and stuff. But I mean, he's a sharp fighter, and on the inside, he shut down a game from one of the most dangerous fighters out there. He made Subriel Matias look decent, good, whatever, but not outstanding like he is. I was expecting a lot better from Subriel. I was thinking like a mid-round, like mid-7, 8 knockout or a stoppage. Liam Paro was neck and neck with him the whole way, and it was a good chess match. It was a good game. It was a good fight. I really, really enjoyed it.
So, Rob, you said when Mateus was coming on, there was a lot of holding. Excessively so? Are we talking more than a B-Hop fight? What are we talking?
I thought it was excessive. Again, there was multiple warnings and never a point taken away. I thought he definitely could have took multiple points away. Like James said, that the hold in the second half of the fight was his saving grace. That really was his saving grace. And it is what it is. He built up the lead, and he couldn't let Mateus' power get there, because once that power gets there for Subriel, I think it would have been over, James, just like we all thought. But Paro's smart. He didn't allow that to happen.
Okay, so Robert and James, let's say a different ref that's a little bit more strict actually took a point. Do we see a different fight?
Pabon is strict. Luis Pabon is kind of an enforcer in there. The way that Liam Paro holds, it's not that egregious. It's there's a subtlety there. He knows how to do it. He's smart. He's not one of those holders where he doesn't let go, and then the ref says break, and he doesn't let go, and then he's pulling him apart, and he still doesn't let go. He's not like that. That's not his style. He's a bit more subtle, and it worked for him.
Well,
you don't see that a lot.
It's like James is saying, he'll hold and he'll let you go. So it's not like the referee has to step in and he's still holding on for dear life. He'll hold and let you go. He'll hold and let you go. But if you do that throughout for about 5-6 rounds in a fight, that gets old.
That gets old, but it's something that you've seen. You know what I mean? Like we said, I always just say with B-Hop, nobody really gave him a lot of crap for it, but hell, he held almost every title fight he's ever had. I mean, you got to get how you can get, you know what I mean? And you got to allow, or you got to take whatever the ref's willing to give you. And in this case, it sounds like he was willing to let it happen. So warnings are what they are.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of when Salido fought Lomo, how he was holding and doing all of that. So yeah, it's a tactic.
Maybe a low blow here and there.
Right, right.
All right, let's talk Antoine Russell.
This one was more disappointing to me for anybody the whole weekend. But it's a style clash issue, I think. And it's just really a situation where you had a fighter that was underestimated, and that was better that night than Gary Anton Russell Jr. His brother in the corner was giving him decent advice, but he never told him step on the gas. He never told him put his foot on the gas either. I felt like they felt like it was a close fight all the way. It could have been either way. But at some point, he should have been more harder on his brother, telling him he was down on the fight at least to spark up something there. But Puello is legit. He's a legit contender. He's a legit fighter. He has some PED issues, and he was suspended for that. So this was his comeback fight from that, and he showed us what he can do, and he's actually a decent fighter. So I was disappointed in Gary Anton Russell Jr., but I don't know, Lucas. I just feel like experience-wise, he wasn't there. He didn't have it. I feel like Puello was a better fighter.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, go
ahead. I was going to say, just like we were talking about with the holding, this one had a point deducted for holding too. So clearly, in these undercards here, or in the, it's made a difference this past weekend. Very rarely do you see a point for holding, and it looks like this one was taken in the 9th.
Yeah, but the referee didn't have any hard warnings. He warned him once. Maybe. I ain't gonna lie. They said on the telecast, and I watched the whole fight, and they said he was warned a couple of times for holding. I didn't really see it. I didn't really see where he was warned at all. Definitely not a hard warning, if that. And he wasn't holding excessively. Now, Pyro, that was excessive holding. This guy was holding to not let Anton Russell Jr. get his shots off in close quarters, but Anton Russell Jr. didn't back him down at all. He didn't, James knows what I'm talking about. It didn't look excessive to me. It didn't look like he was doing it really on purpose throughout the fight to warrant a point deduction. I just felt like, I felt like it wasn't warranted, Lucas. I felt Polo did a lot in that fight to beat Russell without the point deduction.
Well, there's some funky cards in there. I mean, the scores are really weird. There was one judge that gave it 118 to Russell, and then the other two gave it to Puello, and shit did not make sense at all. The card for Russell.
Well,
maybe they gave it to him. You know, that you could give him a fight. Yeah, okay. I wouldn't agree with that. I might agree with it, but I mean that was way too wide for the guy who clearly lost. It's just weird. I mean, 118, 109, Russell.
Yeah,
that guy was watching the wrong fight.
Yeah, I mean, it just sounds like either corruption or you're not paying attention. We got Sakura also on. Sakura, did you see that fight being that close? Or did you see it for Russell like the judge, Daniel Hudson?
No, and I was disappointed that it wasn't because I just was rooting for Russell in that fight. But I don't know what happened towards the end, like the second half of the fight. It was almost like two separate Russells fighting. But that's neither here or there. The judges, they did get it right, but I do agree that unnecessary call with no warning that I could see of, there was no warning prior to taking the point, was unnecessary. And it would have been really heartbreaking if that had been more of a part of, a decision if he'd have got the loss. You know what I'm saying? Like, we would have really been upset. And then the fans would have been upset, and he would have been devastated if that 1 point deduction cost him the fight. So it was kind of like a blessing that didn't happen, that they thought that he was far enough ahead that he could afford that additional, that point being deducted. Because otherwise, shoot, I mean, that would have been a cause for like one of those ref slams that the fans like to do sometimes.
Well, all in all, it was a good fight. It's a good. I can't really say much for Gary Russell or Gary Antoine Russell though. He looked a little rusty, and I don't recall when his last fight was, but that guy needs to turn it up a little bit. I mean, the whole Russell clan does.
Series of inactivities with them. Yeah.
I think that's the root of this here.
Not with Anton Jr. though.
Even with him, because last year he only had one fight.
I think.
Yeah, that was in August.
What a lot of this issue was in this fight though, and they talked about it, was that this was his first lefty. This is his first southpaw that he fought, so it was a southpaw fighting a southpaw basically, and I really felt. What's that, James?
They're both southpaws. It should be, pretty simple.
It was his first one. It was his first one that he fought, and to me, it felt like they didn't, and they said that coming into the fight, and I agree with it wholeheartedly, was that it is tough to get a range for that, especially with this type of fighter, when all you're doing is for the first time, you're sparring lefties now, and you've never really been in the ring with them, and it takes time to get used to that as a southpaw. I think that hurt him a lot too, because you could tell that they were strategy-wise. I mean, they were saying the right things in the corner, and he was trying to implement what they were saying. He just didn't have it.
I'm just surprised that, one of the Russells was, I mean, this is a boxing dynasty. I think really, really highly of the Russells, all of them. But the idea is that he just couldn't get it on. He just couldn't get off. He didn't land the punches he needed. His opponent was not the most aggressive. I just don't. I mean, there's no excuse here. He got shut down because he wasn't on top of his game. I don't think he showed up 100%. There's a lot of things here. I mean, the southpaw or whatever it is. To me, he just looked a little lethargic, and how can you be outgunned? It just doesn't make sense. I don't know what to think about the Russell at this, or Antoine Russell at this point. He just didn't seem like he was 100% there.
Yeah.
And the only thing I can say is ring rust, man. I don't know any other way around it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It just looks like not enough, being in there. One fight in 2023, and that's just not going to do it. And like you said, it's back in August, and it does seem to be a running habit with the Russells. Let's see what Sakura has to say. Sorry, I'm muting you, Sakura. I know you're in the car.
Yeah, thanks, Lucas. I appreciate you doing that from time to time. I was gonna say, he just didn't seem as athletic as we've seen in the past. But we may have seen, he did take a level up type fight, so he could have just been looking like so much of a monster in those previous fights due to the level of competition. So we can't discredit, what's his name? I'm sorry.
Roberto Giel.
Quelo, yes. We cannot discredit his ability to make it where Russell wasn't able to be as aggressive as he normally is.
True. Would we like to see the winners of these two fights we're talking about face each other? I mean, they're looking like they're both at 140. So they're coming off two big wins. Rob?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I like Puello. I do. I like him. He's undefeated. And I just think his game plan was right on the money. Maybe he had more experience than Anton Russell Jr., Gary Anton Russell Jr., but again, James, I just feel like they didn't have the experience with that type of fighter, that style either. And like you said, he did get a point deducted for holding, so it's not like he's pushing the action. I don't agree with the point deduction either, but it's all of those things bouncing into one game plan that went wrong. I think that he'll be back though, and he needs to use this as a learning lesson, just like his brother did. Well, I wouldn't say just like his brother did, because I feel like his brother lost to Lomachenko and then put his career on stilts, and didn't really have the knack to want to fight anymore because of that loss. So for Gary Anton Russell Jr., he needs to get back in the ring. He needs to get back in there quick, preferably with the southpaw. Puello should move on and fight stiffer competition, maybe even for a belt. I feel like he earned it.
Well, I would agree with that. I just didn't see much from Puello. I mean, he's not a very aggressive fighter, Dominican, kind of Cuban, not nationality-wise or anything like that. What I'm saying is stylistically very defensive, didn't really post a really aggressive offense or offensive, and walked away with rounds because he wasn't getting hit. He wasn't getting hit, or he wasn't getting beat to the punch. I don't know, man. It just, overall, I can only say that really disappointed in the performance of Antoine Russell. Just doesn't add up to me. The only thing I can say again, I said it before, is this ring rust. I mean, he just wasn't that aggressive, and he didn't look fired up either. In the corner, he wasn't fired up. His coach was telling him all the right things. Work the inside and double the jab and blah blah. Whatever he told him was always correct, the right way to go. But he just never executed.
Sure.
Never. I don't know.
And just one last observation on what you're saying there, James, too, is that he kept getting hit Russell Jr. kept getting hit with the counter. What was it? The counter left, I think. He kept getting hit over and over again, flush with the counter left. He never adjusted to that. And honestly, Puello could have won the fight just on that. Shakur, I think, when it buzzed in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I'm not getting ready to give up on Antoine Russell just yet. I'm wanting to see him get right back in there, as Rob was alluding to, and I also do want to see Puello get advanced because he really showed that he had that he belongs, where he's at for right now, and deserves some, to go up the ladder.
Yeah, I mean, he's still watchable, and he can definitely redeem himself. But James, what were you going to say?
I was just saying, Puello moves back a lot. Antoine Russell's always moving forward, but he was getting hit here and there, and they really need to take care of that. This was his for the taking. It was for an interim belt as well. So, that's a shame that he blew this opportunity here.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely could just be the opposition. Some of those guys, it's just really hard to look good against, and I can see the stylistic lead that him being one of them, basically. But you got to learn to adapt. I mean, and like Rob was saying, the changes weren't being made.
I think they said all the right things in the corner. They just never executed.
For sure. All right, let's jump into it, guys. Benavidez light heavyweight debut against Gvozdyk. Did he pass? Let's talk about it.
I'm so sick of these fucking haters out here. As soon as a guy moves up in weight, dares to be great, okay? Dares to be great for the first time, moves up into a new weight division against a strong opponent. In his heyday, this guy is a very strong opponent. He's strong, period. Let alone the skills might be diminished. He probably is on his way out. This could just be one last hoorah payday for the guy. I agree with all of that. But it's still a threat. He's still a threat in the ring. And for Benavidez to go out there hurt. Now we need to talk about that. Went out there hurt. Not 100%. The man might not have even been 80% by the fight was over with. And he dominated every round. Every single round. Give my man his credit. The best 175 pounder in the world.
Best one. That's a big statement. I mean, a big statement. Look, I got no problem saying like he did really well. He was, not healthy 100%. I agree with most of what you said. But then you went ahead and said the best 175 pounder out there. Nah, man. So you're already thinking he beats a Bivol and he beats a Beterbiev as well, huh? You were that impressed?
Kills him.
I tend to doubt that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he looked good. He looked good against a pretty decent fighter. But I think he's got a ways to go if he's going to beat Bivol. And if he's going to mix it up with Beterbiev at some point, he's got to improve on a lot of things. And one is defense. In this particular fight, you don't see it. He's not taking a lot of punches. But against Beterbiev, he's got to be far more defensive. That could be a really, really long night for him. Also, size-wise, he was outsized, and it didn't really matter. So that's kind of an important thing. Looked like Gvozdyk was substantially heavier and taller and longer, but he closed the distance with the jab and work behind the jab. And that's it. All he had to do. And he did it to perfection. I'm not sure that would work against Bivol or Beterbiev. So that's a little. I think that's kind of a stretch right there.
Yeah, I thought it was a stretch, but apparently Mark Mitchell agrees with Rob. So Rob
You're both
has-
crazy. You're both
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. I don't
listen.
see that. I got a favor Bivol or a Beterbiev going into that fight, and that's just too off the top. I mean, he still has a lot left to test himself with in the light heavyweight division. There may be others out there that can beat a David Benavidez currently, but go ahead, Rob. What were you saying?
So isn't that the point? Is to make it look like Bivol and Beterbiev or anybody else out there in this division could possibly beat him? Because let's face it, Canelo won't fight him. So who's to say that one of these two guys will go in there in the ring to fight him as well? Isn't that kind of the point, to put yourself out there and not step on the gas heavily?
Well, I mean, that's Canelo, who's 6 inches shorter than him. And this is slightly different. We're talking about actual light heavyweights now that he's going in against. I don't think he's going to have a hardest time finding opposition as he did when he was shrinking down at super middle. So,
well, his Canelo's opposition at 175 wasn't the
scariest.
The scariest, roughest, or the hardest. I mean, Kovalev fought several good rounds, but ran out of gas, and it was kind of expected in a sense. There's a reason that Canelo was fighting him, but he won by knockout, so all good. Canelo won that fight. I'll give him that much, and that's all good. But it would be a different story if he was to step up at 175 and well, he did, and things didn't go well against Bivol. I don't see anything different with Beterbiev. And the monster, Benavidez, probably the same. At 168, I think it might be a little different, though. I think Canelo's got the upper hand at 168 versus Benavidez, but not at 175. I think Benavidez is substantially stronger there.
Yeah, I don't know. I still am gonna favor him just off size advantage. Period. I know.
68.
Say what?
At 68.
Yeah, if he can still shrink down to 68, I don't know if we'll see David Benavidez come back down. I mean, even if Canelo says tomorrow, "Hey, let's fight," I don't know. I think he's 175 now. I don't see him coming back down. He might try to kill himself and make it, but who knows?
Yeah, I think he's gonna try to do it because he doesn't like not being a real monster against his opponents. And I don't know how y'all are just gonna skip over the conversation that Gvozdyk was like so long out of the ring and looked that good against Benavidez. I felt like initially when I heard about this fight, I'm like, oh, so he should be able to get rid of this guy in like 4 rounds. And here we are. We went through the entire fight, and the guy, the Ukrainian, looked up pretty damn good against him. And he was physically fit at times. Towards the end of the fight, he was in better conditioning than the monster looked. That was not a great showing. He got the W, which is all that was necessary. But I mean, I don't think I would want to look that bad against somebody that was just in his recliner a few weeks ago.
Yeah, and I would give him that. I would give him that credit if Benavidez didn't have a messed up hand. If Benavidez didn't get cut.
Oh my God! So he saved.
And then the cut opened up by a headbutt, by the way. And the cut opened up by a headbutt. You could tell out there he was whooping him at one point with one hand.
Well, you know what? I don't know about that whole hand situation. It seems to me very suspicious when people don't bring up these injuries or that they're recovering from something before the fights, and then all of a sudden after the fight, you're bringing it up when you look like shit. Well, suppose he looked great. I bet you we wouldn't have heard about that injury.
Well, he pitched a shutout. I think that's saying something. Great fighters step up to the plate and wait and pitch shutouts, and that's what
I,
he did.
Here's the thing. He didn't
I
really
mean,
pitch a shutout. I mean, you're looking
no,
at a
he didn't.
116 to
Exactly.
112 card on one of the judges' scorecards. So no, it was far from a shutout, but
Lucas, on every one of these fights, there was a ridiculous score. Let's face it, somebody picked Gary Anton Russell Jr. 118 to 109 in a fight he clearly lost.
well, see, that's corruption. But but I'm saying none of these scorecards were really super wide. I mean, I guess 109 to 119 is wide, but then there was a 111, 117. I mean, Gvozdyk was in there. He was in there for each round. It wasn't a blowout like you're making it seem.
It was a blowout. It was a shutout. Ringside judges, commentaries, critics, ESPN, the gospel of sports.
Why is ESPN though is the gospel? I don't understand, but no shade to ESPN, but I don't quite understand all that. Regardless, the right guy won, but I do see what Sakura's saying. I do kind of agree with her that he probably should have looked better against Gvozdyk.
I think all things considered, with his hand and moving up and everything, I think he did okay.
100%. I feel like he should have looked better, especially with this man he was fighting. Like I said, no shade to him, but we all knew he was out for like 3.5 years. I mean, this was like, I mean, if we're talking about Antoine Russell being rusty, that makes him look like, he just went on and got a scratch on a old swing, and with corrosion, and here we are talking about the monster with Gvozdyk, and he's looking like that. Like, that's a long layout.
That's true.
Shakura over here sounding like she betted on the KO and is disappointed. She wants her money back.
Well, yeah, to be honest, I did think it was going to be like a fourth round stoppage.
All right. Let's go on here. Well, first, who do we want to see Benavidez next? Obviously, we want Canelo. I'm assuming right now we're not going to see that. So if Canelo is not the answer, where do we go from here, guys?
Canelo.
He wants the winner. He wants the winner of Bivol Butterbeef. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lucas, but that fight is rescheduled for what, November right now? Is that correct?
I believe so. Let me see.
Which means he won't get that this year. And Benavidez needs to stay active. But I will say this, one thing I found very interesting in the press conference is that Tank did say, I told David that we could switch it up next time. Meaning, I'll take the co-main, Benavidez, you take the main, we could switch it up. I do see that happening as his next fight. Unfortunately, it's probably going to be a name, but more like a gatekeeper type situation in this new division. I don't see it being because Beterbiev and Bivol got to dance in November. I think that fight is going to be built towards next year, possibly January. I do like what Mr. Ruiz is saying here with Morrell. I think that would be a risky but great potential fight. I don't know if Benavidez is going to want to take that chance right now. I think he might. There are other 175 pounders, and he's just getting into the weight. But Morrell is back at 168, though, isn't he, Lucas?
Yes.
Yeah, I think they did ask David about what he's going to do. David did say he can go back down to 168, but I promise you he'll only do that for Canelo.
Right.
He'll only do that for Canelo only. Otherwise, now he's just head hunting at 175. And guess what? Just like all boxers, as you get more and more fights under your belt at that weight, he'll be able to be comfortable and be able to do his thing there. Let's not forget, when Andre Ward went up to 175, he didn't look great. It took him a couple of fights to warm up to the division, and then he got the big Kovalev fight. So yeah, you do want to get comfortable in that division first before you take on a better a Bivol.
Well, there's the thing with Canelo is that he apparently put his mandatory from the IBF on ice, meaning that
Here we go.
whoever he is, I don't even know his name, Cruel or Cool or Fully or
So it's Scully, James,
Skull.
but the problem is there's conflicting stories on that.
Yeah, we don't know.
There's one that's saying that Skull that is taking a paid vacation, as they say, and backing off. And then there's another saying that him and his team actually reached a deal before the purse bid and are waiting on paperwork to be signed to make that fight happen.
The side that I got was that Berlanga was getting his team ready to step up and fight Canelo, and that would be in September. So it looks like Canelo's booked in September. And the question was, who do we want to see Benavidez fight next? I'm looking at the list, the short list, and what about Jaime Munguia? What about David Morrell?
Yeah, I mean, the David Morrell Benavidez is not going to happen. I really like Morrell, but that's definitely not going to happen.
Right. What
Canelo
about
Morrell is probably not going to happen, at least for a while either. But it does look like Skull, from what I'm reading. Ring has it saying it's done deal, and Boxing Scene has it. So I would say it's pretty confirmed here that Canelo Skull is next.
Canelo who?
This Skull guy.
Never
Exactly. But you know
Maybe
what? Berlanga, I'm not super excited about either. To me, these are throwaway fights, no matter what. So, you know, these are Canelo's tune-ups to whoever we want to see him fight next. Either way, I honestly could care less. Berlanga, I care the same much as Skull. I don't care. He earned his right to get the shot. Why not give the guy a shot? You know what I mean? I think he earned his right at least more than a Berlanga. Berlanga's not a mandatory for anybody, is he?
Probably not.
I mean, he shouldn't be. This guy probably shouldn't be either, but but at least he's that. He was made a mandatory. They're actually making him fight a mandatory. I'm all for it. I mean, if we're not getting another big name, then hell, let's just give him Skull and be done with it.
Let's go, Skull. Okay.
Yeah.
I want Skull to get this payday. Why not? Give Skull the payday. I mean, obviously he's got enough wins to be the mandatory for the IBF. And I know people are talking shit about the IBF, but guess what? They've been doing pretty good lately with their news and their regulations and their requirements and their mandatories. So maybe there's more to Skull than meets the eye, guys. What you think?
I mean, I'm with the IBF. I like the rehydration limits. I like what they've been doing. So I mean, we can hope. He's a Cuban fighter. So far, those have given Canelo some problems. So maybe we'll get surprised here. Maybe we'll get a weird style clash for Canelo and see him struggle a little bit.
Well, it just goes back to one thing: is that Benavidez has been an interim champion for about 100 years.
Yeah.
And it's just not right. It's just not right. He should have had that shot a long time ago. It means to say that those interim belts mean nothing.
Oh yeah.
I mean, anyone who's got one right now is subject to the same treatment as far as the WBC goes. And I would say like Benavidez did a good job in moving up, and moving on. Not just that, but moved on and forgot about Canelo. But I know he wants that fight. I know that he can come down to 168 and deal with Canelo. The question is, will Canelo deal with him? From what we've seen, probably not. It's probably not going to happen.
No, I don't think that fight's gonna happen. It's probably best that he does move on. What's up, Squirrel?
But you know what, guys, just to touch on my guy that I like, actually. I just got to give him credit at least for pushing for what he wants in a fight. He's tenacious. And, I was just saying this afternoon to Lucas, that suppose Bud was as tenacious as, who am I trying to say, Lucas?
Are you talking Skull?
Huh?
Are you talking
No.
Skull?
No, what we were talking about.
We were talking about Bud earlier.
Yeah, I was saying if Bud was as tenacious as my guy in Tampa.
I forgot now.
I'm sorry. I don't know why I can't think of his name at this moment when I need it off my tongue. But anyway, if he get Berlanga, if he was as tenacious as Berlanga, we would have saw Bud versus Crawford years ago, and we would have saw them both in their prime without health issues or concerns with accidents and such, because that is something that sometimes is missing in certain boxers. It's just that drive and that hunger and the ability to speak something into existence. Even when he's confronted with the fact that, there's a lot of people, he got a lot of haters that don't want to see him fight Canelo. And, Berlanga is still like, hey, I still think I should get this fight. So, I'm just saying, I got to give him his shout outs for continuing to press for this fight, and if you don't have the skills of some of your other counterparts, but you got the heart and your name has some value to it, you can push for these things. You can advocate for yourself. And I'm just saying I like that hustle and that grind that Berlanga is showing through this, to still be after that fight, as he should be.
Yeah. You're not wrong there. I think a lot of people don't use their mouthpiece enough to demand the fights. Like I said, these promoters, man, the fighters have to know that they work for them and not vice versa. The promoters work for the fighters. It should not be a fighter working for a promoter. Oh, whoever my team wants me to fight. No, bitch, who do you want to fight? That's all it should matter. It should not matter who the promoters and your managers and everybody else want you to fight. That makes it sound like you don't care. You're good with anybody. And, it's an easy out. But there has to be a fight out there that every fighter wants, right? So every time Bud fights, every time Bud's on TV, he should be calling out Canelo. If that's what he wants, make it happen. Like, for me, everybody's going to do that anyway, just because that's the big payday that everybody wants. But let's talk a little bit about that, because honestly, we might be staring down Canelo, but I hear that there's still ongoing negotiations on both sides. I think they're getting a little bit closer, even though Canelo said he would never take that for any kind of money. I think we will eventually see that fight probably within the next year. What do you guys think?
I wouldn't mind seeing it, but I would like to see Bud move up to weight as opposed to jump up. If he takes a 54, maybe earns a belt at 54 after a fight or two, and then moves up to 60 and fights at 60, and then, eventually at 68. But, I just hate to see a fighter jump and not perform well, because then there's all the built-in excuses about why he didn't perform, and obviously he's it's just not his weight class, and etc. So we all lose, and there's no win. This is like a lose almost for Canelo, for Crawford, for the fans. It just doesn't make sense. And I think what what's his name, hometown in Saudi Arabia wants to do. maybe he needs to think about things a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean,
that would be Turk Al-Ashish. That's who runs the show in Saudi. On this particular issue with in terms of this fight with Canelo, I actually want to give him his props for doing something here. It's not his fault because the IBF is strict and has strictly demanded this fight, or they will strip him of this title. Canelo's legacy right now is undisputed. He wants to continue to be undisputed possibly until he retires. So I honestly think by him ignoring the noise of the fans and everybody wanting him to fight Berlanga, ignoring the money being thrown at him to fight a Crawford, let's keep this belt. Let's keep the IBF, because that means whoever wants to face me, whoever it is, come up. You got to come up or come down, and it's for the undisputed belts for all of them.
You know what? I can't give him too much credit because he's dodging Bivol. Bivol has offered to come back down to 168 and fight. I mean, like, he wants too much money, or already making excuses. He does not want to lose those belts. He knows that's a bad style matchup. He can bark all he wants talking about, I'm going to avenge that loss. You ain't ever avenging that loss. You moved on because you already know you're gonna take that second L and you don't want no part of it. So stop with that shit. Okay, you can do that all you want, but we all know it's a goddamn lie. You avoiding certain people at 168. You're avoiding Morrell. You're avoiding Benavidez. And you're avoiding Bivol.
All right, Lucas. Well, my interjection there was not to give you a end there to go on your Canelo hating rants.
Hey, I wouldn't have rant. That was split. That was right to the point. I just slapped it down real quick. We can move on now. Stephen A. You know, your clone almost. We got Robert A. Stephen A. Gervonta Davis is one of the top 5 fighters on the planet. Would you all agree with Stephen A?
I already told y'all he's number 1 pound for pound. I already told y'all this.
Number 1's a big statement when you have multiple people that have been undisputed in multiple different weight classes.
I don't care.
I would not put him at number 1, but I'd put him up there. But he's not that. He doesn't have the names on his resume yet. I mean, he's got some good ones. There's no question about it. But he has not fought Shakur. And there's a couple of 35ers out there that he needs to face before we can call him that, or I can call him that. But if you want to call him that, that's fine.
Loma, I mean, he's got name after name. He's still got Isaac Cruz problems.
How he beat him?
Oh, Isaac Cruz, I wouldn't go that far, but yeah,
he beat him. Yeah, he beat him.
Nah, I don't know.
I'll tell you what.
I don't know. It was a close fight, guys.
I'll tell you what. I'll give you this. He's good enough to do it. Let's go ahead and stop beating around the bush, Tank, and let's unify the titles at 135. You can beat every one of those champs at 135. Go over there, take on the Ukrainian Baranchek, get that title. Go over there then, keep up with the Ukrainians. Lomachenko is next. Take out him, get that title. Then we'll see where Shakur is at. Then we'll see what Shakur wants to do. That would be probably the biggest pay-per-view showing to date.
You're talking Shakur Davis?
Yeah. Oh.
For undisputed.
I mean, I was just going to say that this situation here is that, you know, it would have been one thing that if Tank was able to destroy Martin earlier, but Tank was allowing him to get tired, guys, which I think I was saying in my analysis of what was going to happen. But while he was allowing him to get tired, Tank was taking a lot of counter hooks from Martin. And who didn't really think? I mean, I don't know many people that thought that Tank wasn't going to get a knockout. You know what I'm saying? Like, whereas many people that just knew he was going to get a knockout. The conversation more or less straddled along the lines of what round. Like, it was more talk about, you know, and dispute about which round it would be. And by the way, I'm upset with you, Tank, because I said 70. Your ass delivered in 8. So you were in trouble with me. But anyway, look at Chase.
I mean, look, Tank's good. No doubt about it. Tank is amazing. But like we said, who really was Frank Martin before this fight? Now that he won a fight that really none of us really knew who Frank Martin was or really followed beforehand. Now we're supposed to be like he's one of the top 5 fighters on the planet. Get the fuck out of here. Look, I like Tank. I do. He's good, but he ain't that. He is not that. We have 3 undisputed and 2 weight class guys. So he's at best number 4, and I don't even know if I can put him up there. You got to put Canelo probably in front of him. Just like we said, I mean, his resume is lacking, guys. I mean, tell me I'm wrong. What's his best win?
Well, he's got some good ones. I mean, I think Pitbull was up there, and Ryan Garcia was up there, and he's got some good victories, but not enough. I mean, I wouldn't put him up there that high. He's up there. And he's got star power, and he's a hell of a lot of talent.
And there's 2 big question marks on those names that you mentioned, because a lot of people have problems with Isaac Cruz. Yours truly is one. Ryan Garcia looked drained and looked very out of shape for that one. He looked bad and wildering. So I don't know. You put another guy in there that can fight, that can box, that can counterpunch. Frank Martin is no Lomachenko. Okay. Loma's going to make that look easy. If Frank Martin can do that, where's Loma going to be at?
No, Mishenko. Are you saying that he can do what Frank Martin did 10 times better? Is that kind of what you're saying?
I mean, yeah, maybe not 10 times, but double.
Or double, okay. And you're right, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. The differences in these bouts is Tank. That's the difference.
What's the difference? He still took 8 rounds to get Frank Martin out of it.
Because he turned his own on-off switch. That's why. He turned his own on and off switch. He dictated when he wanted to turn it on, and when he did, lights out.
Do you honestly think he spent 8 rounds waiting? Saying I'm not going to knock this dude out.
Exactly what he did. We saw
it.
You're
out of your mind. You think he was? No, he was getting frustrated. What are you talking about?
He was not frustrated at all. He said it specifically. The game plan was to make him wear himself out, and that's what I did.
And he wore himself out with his face, right? This is why he's had this big ass goose egg on the side of his head. Come on, man. Come on, make it make sense.
What are you talking about, Lucas? He
just 8 hooks to the face?
Because he can do it.
You can't do that against everybody.
Yes, he has. 29 people, 28 people to be exact. No, actually, what is this? His 30th victory? 30 people to be exact.
What are we really crowning the guy over? I mean, again.
Look, this is one of those situations.
Thank you, CJ. I don't think Tank is top 5.
You know what, CJ? You shut up right now, CJ.
Hold on. Top 10, yes.
No. Listen to me, what I'm saying, because y'all always do this. And what's going to happen is the Floyd Mayweather effect. You're going to sit here, and when he does step up in competition, you're going to say, oh, he's going to get beat now. Oh, he's going to get beat now. Why? Because you're hoping and wishing, and it ain't going to happen.
I'm not hoping
it ain't going to happen.
I like Tank, especially after the last fight. Look, the man has found humility, and he's becoming a better person, along with a better boxer. Honestly, I was impressed with everything. It's just the boxing that I wasn't fully impressed with. Look, he ate those left hooks all day. And to a better boxer, somebody's going to be able to take more advantage of it, somebody that's able to land faster, that's going to hurt Tank, okay? I honestly think Tank was hurt more than once in that fight. He's just good at covering it up. And listen, if Frank Martin can hurt you, Lomachenko or any of these other elite guys are going to hurt you. What were you saying, James?
I would. You're right, but I would love to see Lomachenko. If that's not going to happen, then what about William Zepeda?
I like
versus,
Zepeda.
versus
I'll
Tank?
take Baranchik. I mean, there's fights to be made for Tank.
Cepeda doesn't have a title.
Right.
It should be Baranchik.
It should be a unification. No, you're right.
It should be Baranchik, to be honest. I really wish it was Navarrete. I would have loved to see that. But Baranchik earned it. And it should be Baranchik next. And knowing the way Tank leans towards fights, gravitates towards fights, I know they want to push Lomo, but Baranchik is easy pickings, but he's gonna pose a great fight for Tank. Those challenges that Calvin Ford wants to see, Baranchik can challenge him in that fight, even more so than Frank Martin. I would make that fight next, get Baranchik out the way, and then set up Lomachenko.
Spence says Tank is the most protected fighter in boxing. You gotta somewhat agree. Like we said, the resume there is lacking for somebody who's a pay-per-view star. Guys, what do you say to that? I mean, what's your response, Rob, to that? I know you're a big Tank guy.
That's not
what
the
is your
right
response?
headline.
Is that not what he said? Is that not what he said?
No, that's what he said.
Was it a
but
misquote?
he's wrong. That's not the headline with Tank. The headliner is how many 135 pounders have we seen with knockout ability like Mike Tyson? I'll wait.
Like
somebody name somebody.
No, he's definitely racking up the electrifying knockouts.
But that's easy when you haven't fought anyone. When you've never fought the elite guys, of course you're going to knock people out. And that's what everybody says about Mike Tyson. When he stood up, when he fought Holyfield, when he fought the big guys, he lost, right? That's what they say about Tyson. And that's end up going to be what they say about Gervonta Tank Davis if he does not fight somebody in his youth. Because he's going to get to a point where he's 36 years old, like Bud, still has not a big name on his resume, gonna finally step up and then get beat. And then what they're gonna say about him is he was never shit to begin with. We need to see him fight somebody in his prime while he can.
He fought Ryan in his prime. He fought Isaac Cruz in his prime.
And
Mario Barrios, he went up to fight
Barrios.
and wait. And Mario is a legit fighter right now in his division. He holds a belt, I believe. He's a legit fighter in that division. He's fighting younger guys. Frank Martin even is a young, undefeated fighter. He's fighting younger guys just because
you lying about Barrios. Let's be real. Be real with Barrios. You do not think he's going to hold on to that belt. Be honest with me. You think he's going to hold to that belt?
Yes, I really like Barrios. I like Barrios a lot.
You think he's going to be able to be at the top of that division?
Yes, because 154, and they've all said it, 154 right now is not what it once was. They're looking for stars at that weight class.
Hey, 154 is about to get jumped full of talent, okay? It's about to have everybody at 154.
And we'll see what happens then. My point is Errol says that while he's managing a fighter in Frank Martin. So if you're saying Frank is protected, and what is Frank Martin in? Is Frank Martin supposed to be a legit fighter? Because if so, he walked right through him, knocked his ass out, embarrassed him. He didn't even want to go home to his mama after that fight. Okay? So Errol was making statements because, like Tank said back to Errol, he's just there for a check.
Look, at the time of the stoppage, is a 1-point win towards Gervonta Tank Davis. Okay, against Frank Martin, who had little to no experience, right? I mean, he did not have anywhere near the experience of anybody else that's deep in that division. Do you honestly think that somebody else wouldn't be able to hold off a little bit longer, not make the mistakes that Frank Martin made? and possibly steal one away from Tank Davis.
Frank Martin's mistake was laying on the ropes. He should have kept it in the center ring. Sometimes the ropes are your biggest enemy. But I mean, in the end, it all comes down to one thing: is that we need to see a unification here. There's no other way out. It's either Stevenson or Lomachenko. Frank Martin had some decent fights and a lot of good skills, but just wasn't up to task. He was outgunned from the get.
Okay. I'm going to do my own little quick rapid fire just to see where we're standing, guys. And I'm going to save Rob for last because I know you're very high on Tank. But James, I'm going to come to you first with this. Would you favor Tank against Loma or against Stevenson? Or both?
Versus Loma, I think that's a toss-up. I'd love to see that fight. Versus Stevenson, I think that he's got a slight advantage over Stevenson, but it could be a fantastic fight as well. I think Loma would give him a better fight. Might beat him. I don't think Stevenson would.
Really? Okay. Sakura, you still there? Move on, Rob. Go ahead. Would you favor him in either one of those fights? Oh, well.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just had you on mute.
You're good.
I was trying to talk. Do I have him against Lomachenko? Yeah, at this point in Lomachenko's career, I would have to give the edge to Tank. But, you know, Lomachenko proved with his fight against Gvozdyk that he is capable of still having a knockout, especially his body punch knockout is still there. And it was towards the end of the fight, too. So it was still available to him through the 11th. I think he won in the 11th round, was it? I can't remember, but I think it was one of those championship rounds.
I think
so. Yeah. Now the thing is like, well, Tank is not a Gvozdyk, so you know he's not going to be standing right there and be that accessible to Lomachenko like that. So he would have to be very crafty and at the same time be perfect for 12 rounds. And I find it often it's very hard for boxers to be perfect for 12 rounds. But if anybody can do it, it would be Lomachenko. Who was the other person?
Stevenson. Shakur.
Shakur, he's still young. I do find that he would be a little inexperienced for that level of competition. Just because, you know, the level of his competition so far hasn't been, you know, like superstar status. And they definitely probably don't have the KO power that someone like, someone like Tank has. And so he's very elusive and he's known not to get hit. He's all about the real sweet science of hit and not get hit. The problem with him would basically be is he going to get hit or not? You know, is he going to be able to hit back or not? I'm sorry. Because he was very ineffective when it came to his own offense last outing that he had. So he would have to find some way to be able to pick his spots and actually go work against Tank in a fight.
Yeah, I don't know. Stevenson seems to kind of match the level of his opposition lately. He rises to the occasion, but he also looks bad against weak opposition too. So, but CJ says Tank has the one-punch power, but I'm taking Shakur, and Tank may decision Lomachenko. But Pitbull Cruz deserves one more shot. He fought Tank on 2 weeks' notice, so imagine if he had a full training camp. And I agree. And I think it speaks volumes when Tank said after the fight, "Is there going to be a rematch?" Tank said, "Hell no." Nobody wants to fight Pitbull. I mean, I don't knock him for that. It's got to be a tough fight, even if he did clearly win or not. neither here nor there. I mean, just to have that guy in front of you, knocking at the door every single second to get Pitbull off you is just so hard. So I want to see it. I don't think as many people want to see it as me and maybe CJ and Sakura. But Rob, I got to get your opinion. Would you highly favor him, or would you favor him at all against Lomachenko and Stevenson?
So CJ, to kind of dead the Pitbull conversation here for you and Lucas, because Lucas
ain't
wants
going
to
nowhere.
see it again. He needs a signature win. He's getting close. He got Romero. He got Raleigh out of there quick, fast, and in a hurry. I think he needs a signature win, possibly jump up there and take one of those titles that are out there for grabs. Go after brand check. Hell, dare to be great. See if Pitbull can beat Lomachenko. Go after one of them titles. He needs a signature win to get that rematch back, in my opinion.
That's easier said than done. You think Lomachenko's eager to take that kind of a fight? I don't think anybody's wanting really to fight Pitbull right now.
But Loma wants to take on the Tank. Okay, so Lomachenko versus Gervonta Tank Davis. I say Tank knocks him out, gets rid of him. Gervonta Tank Davis versus Shakur Stevenson. Listen, Tank has to knock him out because if that one goes to decision, Shakur is definitely going to take it.
I think Lomachenko and Shakur would really control the distance well. I think Tank is going to be a lot harder to find his shots that he's wanting to land. I think I'd favor them both over Tank right now. But like Sakura was saying,
is not biased.
Like Sakura was saying, all it takes with Tank is one. So he's in there in both of those fights regardless. But they have to be perfect. He does not. He just has to land his punch. And 8 rounds with Frank Martin, he seems to start slow. And if you start slow against some more elite guys who are going to work your body, you're going to be gassed by mid-fight. Frank Martin wasn't able to put that work in. And unfortunately for him, Tank still had a lot left and was able to get him out of there.
I'm at the same spot. Bring on Lomachenko. I think he takes care of Shakur Stevenson. Lomachenko Davis would be a hell of a fight. That'd be a really, really great matchup. And don't get me wrong, I'd like to see him against Stevenson as well, but I think he polishes off Stevenson with his power. But Lomachenko's a different story. It's just he's not the easiest to hit. So,
but yeah,
that's the one to make, I think,
for sure. And I think both of those are going to be closer to even fights, even for Vegas. I think the odds are going to be super close. We're coming off a pay-per-view, guys, that were very one-sided. Okay, we already knew who was going to win going into this, and we were right on both occasions. There was no surprises on these fights. We should not be hanging Gervonta Tank Davis crown a little higher from beating a Frank Martin. I'm sorry, we shouldn't. He was supposed to win this fight. If he didn't, then we could talk about it. But right now, he was supposed to win this. He did what he was supposed to do. He moved on. Really wasn't too impressive. I think he lost a lot of those rounds. He won off his power. That was basically it. He leaned into it in the 8th. Was able to get him out of there. But, Rob, I'm handing it over to you. It is that time. Rob's Rapid Fire has been a little bit.
All right. I want our audience to tune in here and shout out who you guys like. But I said last week to open this up, a star, we seen 2 of the biggest stars in boxing last weekend in Gervonta Tank Davis and David the Monster Benavidez. What I want to know is with the current state that we're in right now, there's some great new boxers being produced. Some great new potential stars that are being produced. So we're going to play a game of who's the next superstar in the sport. So I asked my panel here to come up with a list of who they feel should be the next superstar. And if there's somebody that y'all know that's not on our radar but should be, add them into it, and me and Lucas will add them to our watch list. This is in honor of me, of course, because years and years ago, I saw the young Gervonta Tank Davis, and I said, a star is born. And I was right. So let's see if I have the next star or if one of my counterparts has them. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. So the next superstar in boxing has not yet turned pro, but he will very soon after nationals in, I believe, in Kentucky, and his name is Jojo Subia. And he is probably one of the best amateurs out there right now. His father's a great coach. They're friends. And when this kid turns pro, he's going to light up the 135, maybe the 140 division. So shout out to Jojo Subia. Can't wait to see you whoop the entire division. Remember that name.
I like that, James. I like that. Anyone else you want to mention, or is that your shout out?
That's it. That's all I got.
You know,
Lucas?
I got a couple I like. Superstardom, I think, is hard to predict, but I mean, it's also pretty. How do I say it? Like, for example, would you guys consider Usyk a superstar? I don't even know if I would consider him a superstar. Like, he's a star, but do you mean like a pay-per-view type guy? What do you mean by superstar?
Ask anyone in Ukraine whether Usyk is a superstar.
You got a point.
I said
Ukraine
last week,
versus America.
That we would kind of go through a rating system, which would be, yes, we agree that they're a star. No, we disagree that they're not going to be a star. Or yes, they already are a star. And in the case of Usyk, Lucas, decent pick, but yes, he already is a star.
That wasn't my pick. I was using that as an example to see where your gauge is for a superstar. Okay, so I have a couple of names here that I'm going to throw out. So they're both should be somewhat familiar, I assume, especially the first one, Jay Apatow. I think not only is he going to do what Usyk did, is basically conquer the cruiserweight division. I think he's going to mirror Usyk and go up to heavyweight division. I see him doing some damage in the heavyweight division as well. You got to think, you got Fury. He's not going to last too much longer. What is going to be left of that heavyweight division here in a year, 2 years? What's going to be left of it? Jay Apatow is going to be up there. I think he's going to be winning. He's going to have a belt or two. There's also another guy named Diego Pacheco, which I've been saying he's going from contender to be a champion here pretty soon. I expect him to be undisputed. He fights really well. The only thing I don't see, Rob, is the superstardom there. I can't see him going and doing like a pay-per-view or anything like that just yet. I don't know about that part of it. But as far as being a boxer, I really see him coming up the ranks and is going to be wrecking some people here pretty soon.
So,
name a president that is. Hey,
Shakur.
So, yeah, I had a few names, but in honor of Hobby, I have to say, of course, Jake Paul. Okay, number one.
Somebody filled in for Hobby.
He has potential. I would agree.
Look, I think he's already a star. Clearly, he's doing.
Yeah, we're talking. He's already a star. We're talking about the next up. You know, you guys already know some of my favorites like Jaleel Hackett, and he's going to be at super welterweight by the time he really takes off in his career. And then, you know, Carmel, he is, you know, formidable. He's like the little next Tank. You know, even though I'm sure he doesn't like being compared to him. So, oh wow, there's a duck in the street, guys. And so cute. Welcome to Florida. And there's some other key guys that I really like, but they're nowhere near like you're just gonna start seeing them on some of the cards as like undercards real soon. Like I saw one guy, his last name is Maserati, and he's German. He's German, but he's African American German, and he's over here training in St. Pete. Has some wonderful skills, and so I think he's going to be on a top ranked card coming up. Um, so there's some standout guys that I'm seeing here in this area. So I'm pretty excited about it. I am. I'm sure there's some others that I just aren't mentioning right now, but those are some of my top picks.
Well, maybe because I own this segment, so I did my homework. So I have a very extensive list. These are some of the biggest names out there right now. I'm of the opinion that I think definitely have superstar potential, and they're on their way. Very much so. I'll start off my list. I have Xander Zayas. I definitely see he fighting on Puerto Rican Day now. Very exciting fighter. Um, Punches with bad intentions. As he gets more and more experience up there, they're already building him as a capable star. So I definitely see him going up there. My next guy, y'all can chime in if you feel, but some people might already think he is a star. Mr. Boots Ennis. I don't feel like he's a star yet because he doesn't have that signature victory.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, not to cut back in, but I think we can throw Isak in there. I think all it takes is Isak knocking out one big name, and boom, he's a pay per view star because that kind of pressure fighting is what really does well for views.
I have Isak Cruz also on my honorable mention list, though.
Ah, yeah, there you go.
Honorable mention. My next guy, Jared Anderson. Again, he is getting a very big push.
Man, you about made me flip this.
Okay, disagree.
Anderson.
Let's disagree. Go ahead, Lucas.
I mean, I've been vocal about how I think Jared Anderson is not that good at heavyweight division. I mean, maybe he might make a good cruiserweight if he could get down to that. I don't see it, man. What do you see in Jared Anderson that makes you think he's going to be a star in the sport?
The headlines he gets.
Because he's getting pushed. So his promotion is doing well. That don't mean nothing.
And he stays undefeated.
By fighting who he's fighting. Look, you're just skipping over what he's doing here because he hasn't fought anyone. So of course you can still be undefeated. There's rows of undefeated fighters, Rob, from local promotions that I can tell you you're not going to know their name, and I'll be like, hey, they're undefeated. Undefeated does not mean shit when your resume is 0. If you're undefeated and you got 12 world champs or former world champs on that, then bam, you somebody. But if you undefeated and none of those people were champs, some of those people weren't even undefeated, then that don't mean shit to me.
Let's go to the panel. James, does he have potential? Not potential? Is he already a star?
It's a hard to call. I think he does. I think the potential is there. Whether it gets exercised and executed is a different story. And matchmaking has a lot to do with it. Let's face it.
Yes.
Shakur?
Seth Mitchell.
Opinion, Shakur.
Seth Mitchell. That's what I'm going to say.
Oh, Lucas.
What opinion are we trying to get here?
Jared Anderson.
Is he on the verge of being a star? Is he not going to be a star? Is he not going to be a star, or is he already a star?
I mean, they gonna make him a star. So if that's that's really the correct answer. They gonna make him a star because, um, as you guys were mentioning before, it's not too much out there in his generational, division and in his time for heavyweights, and they've already made him not like name worthy. So
Thank you.
I
So
mean, whether or not he's warranted, or you got more, whether or not, oh, okay, whether or not that is warranted or not, uh, it's hard to say. I'm leaning towards Lucas's answer, but maybe he is that type, like some of these other boxers that rises to just the level of their competition at the
I,
time. So we don't know, 100% yet. But right
I,
now, they're making him a star.
I mean, both can be true, right? He can be terrible. He can wait out the division. He can wait for Usyk to be gone.
Yeah.
He can wait for Tyson Fury to be gone, and then he can rule over whatever remains. Which, like I said, I
Maybe you
mean, I
should
think
have
Jay Apatow's going to come up and beat a Jared Anderson. I don't see Jared Anderson really ruling over anything. I'm sorry, Rob. The others I so
right.
far I've agreed with.
no, no.
I can't get
This
behind
was
you.
supposed to bring out a
Hey, sweet.
debate.
Okay.
All right,
Well,
let me move on.
okay.
Yeah, he's away.
Keyshawn Davis. I feel like Keyshawn Davis is definitely a star, a superstar in the making. I'm gonna skip over this one really quick,
But people like
because
Bruce Carrington too.
that's okay. Let's add that name, Bruce Carrington.
Oh, for sure.
Um, so again,
Xander Zayas. Did anybody say Xander?
that's my
Rob did
first
you.
pick.
Which is good.
Um,
Well,
and
I
then
mean,
David Morrell.
I think he was on there too. But he's a champ, so that's kind of hard to say. He's gonna be a star, but I hear
um,
what you mean. I guess I could go both ways on that one.
I would have to say a star because, but he doesn't have the ability to make himself a star without a name. And and I was gonna say when it came to that Anderson, it's the same thing. Yeah, what's that? It's the same situation where he might not want everybody that's making big money at heavyweight actually to go and retire on him, because then who is he gonna make money with? What big payday will he have coming if everybody's gone?
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? And Morel is kind of like in a similar situation where he's not able to get the fights that he wants right now because it's high risk and it's low reward for a lot of these guys. But we think that he skill wise is there. It's just a matter of when are the powers that be are going to allow their guy to be someone that we find out how much of the guy Morel is or not.
So what's our answer then for Morrell? Is he gonna be a star? Not gonna be a star? Already a star?
I think Morel has the potential. I think I would say the jury's still out. I think he needs that measuring stick fight. Whether he gets that is this is boxing, so who knows? But
Lord, I
uh,
think it's a distinction between what definition we're saying as a star. Is he going to be a superstar of his
Well,
division and be a big name versus is he a star because he actually is going to earn that and he has the skills that pay the bills to be a star? Those are like two different questions to me. But I'll take the one, is he going to be a star as in a Canelo type star? I would say no.
no, yeah,
Is he going to be a star as in somebody that's avoided, that everybody knows is got the goods? He'll be that type of star.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you the equalizer for me. The
Okay.
knockouts. He
Any
continues to
knockouts.
knock out. He
He can knock
continues the
out.
knockouts. He'll be a superstar if he continues that.
Well, he can
Uh,
crack, but he wants some names to crack.
here's a good one right here. It's on the list. Richard Torres.
Okay.
No, I don't see it. I mean, he can be built correctly and get some spectacular knockouts. But as far as that goes, I would honestly just like to see him go against Jared Anderson in the best win. Let that man move on, and then we got your star. But honestly, they both don't seem to have the best skill level at that heavyweight division. At least not what we're used to seeing at this current level. So yeah, I'm not big on Torres. Even though I like him, I like to watch his knockouts. I can't see him doing that against anybody that's at the upper echelon of the division.
Well,
I agree.
I could say he could also be problems because if him and Big Baby are really like the only two Big Baby, Jared, if they're only the two heavyweights that are at top ranks, and we know how they like to do in house, they got FA hanging out there, but he's getting older. So the last man standing probably is gonna be Torres. And he his biggest worry is gonna be whether there's gonna be another name to really build up a true mega fight for him in his career, because this seems like, I mean, even Jared is in a different place than he is as a prospect. Jared is at least a young contender already. You know what I'm saying? Like Torres got a lot of additional time, and I don't see anybody else coming up in heavyweight that's spoke of or has the Olympic pedigree or the knockout power that he possesses. So he could be a star.
James.
Well, I totally misunderstood your question because I thought you were looking for up and comers as opposed to people who are already established in the game, and that's
They're
I
not
looked at
stars yet, James. I
well
want to know who's going to be the next star.
the star. Um, I would say right now, based on skills, it is Bruce Shushu Carrington. He's got it all. He's the complete package.
Okay.
Cool.
So here goes my honorable mention. Edgar Berlanga, Isaac Cruz,
Uh,
Mm.
Mario Barrios. My
How
man,
about
Mario
yeah,
Barrios.
maybe.
Jaime Munguia. I think
Also
he's still a
maybe.
star. I
Also
think
maybe.
he's still a star. And Blair Cobb, ladies and gentlemen. He's got a big name. Hey, listen, he's got a big name under his belt, and he's a good fighter.
What's the
I
big
think he's
name?
going to get more clout after this, and he might get another upset win
What's the big
this
name?
year.
Yeah,
What's
well,
the big name under his belt?
Adrian Broner.
I don't. That name doesn't mean as much as it used to. um, I have a name that I think could potentially be because I honestly see him getting a win here in October. Sebastian Fundora. I see him knocking out Spence, and he's going to take off from there. Now it's not going to be superstardom, no pay per view, but I definitely see him getting a lot better turnout and viewers and everything. You don't see him beating Spence. James shaking his head.
I hope, but he got whooped by up and comer Mendoza. Knocked out
By one point.
cold, knocked out cold, and also got his nose broken by a guy who was bleeding badly. Um, if Tim Zhu didn't have that cut, that fight would have ended in 4 or 5 rounds. I think. So that's wishful thinking there. Well, you know what? Fuck it. Good luck to Fundora. I hope he does well. I hope he
Well,
does become that superstar because I think he deserves it. He's a good guy and a good fighter. And yeah, but no.
that's
But Noah's
a
got the
pickup,
one
though.
loss, and I think it was just a good punch. I mean, who knows? He might have been able to fight on. What were you saying, Rob? I'm sorry.
I think that's a good pickup. I like that. And I think it's definitely good right now. Why? Because you're right. If he beats Spence, he's gonna be considered at that level.
Those are two big names that I'm sorry, but some of the
Fighter of
other
the year
there are
contender.
pay
Gotta
per
be.
view guys and people that say they're pound for pound that don't have two big names like a Tim Zoo and an Errol Spence Jr. Now he hasn't beat Errol Spence yet. If he does, though, one that should make Crawford's win either go down or stay the same. You have to make that. You know what I mean? You have to hold that accountable both ways. You can't just say, "Oh, well, Spence is ruined now." No, Spence was ruined when Crawford fought him too. Then you have to make this a level board. And once you give him credit for those two wins, that speaks highly. And if he gets another big win, you got to start talking. Where's he at on a pound for pound list? Can he go undisputed? Can he unify these titles? I don't know. I mean, Fundora is going to be problems simply stylistically and because of his height. I mean, he is a freakishly built guy, okay? And just that awkwardness of him is going to do wonders for him.
So what I didn't tell y'all was I had y'all build this list because all of these guys, even the ones that you name that are up and coming, are all going to be really active in these coming years with some fights. So I'm gonna hold y'all accountable of it, and I'm gonna say I told you so when we come across these fighters and they either A, get beat, or they actually rise to the occasion and do have a big victory and become that star. So I'm going to keep track of these guys. We're all going to keep track of them and look out for them. Not to take James's segment away. Well, we got Adam Hurley here who he says, I got Fundora over Spence. Wow.
Me too.
I want
Me
to
too.
see Spence get a win, but Fundora is too much for a guy that's had a long layoff. And also, Adam, issues. He has injury. He's injury prone or whatever's going on with the eyes. So, yeah, I think that Spence is actually a vulnerable fighter. And Fundora, we could see an upset here as well, James.
Good possibility.
So I'm going to take real quick a segment away from James tonight and give a shout out. I'm going to give a big shout out to Kyron Davis. Big upset on the preliminary card over Elijah Garcia. Elijah Garcia was on a lot of our radars as a big heavy puncher, and Kyron Davis with the tutelage under the bread man went out there and had a magnificent game plan and upset young Garcia. Big shout out to Kyron Davis for that victory.
All right. Well, well said. I really like the rapid fire. I think a lot of our names were good, and I do want to see where they build from here. But thank you all for tuning in again. This is Tough Talk. We are every Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. As always, we don't pull any punches. We'll see you next week.